All right, hey, welcome to Man Cave. So hey, today here in the cave, we're going to do an AC job here on a 2011 Chevy Camaro. This is a buddy of mine's, and he needs to get it done. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna AC job. We're gonna do the AC compressor. We're gonna do the condenser in it, and then we'll get it vacuumed down and get it charged back up and see how it works. All right, so I think we might need a light, but it looks like it's okay. So what we'll do, just a real quick rundown on it. We're going to take and we'll get this removed, get the air box here itself removed. The AC compressor is down in there. You're not going to probably be able to see it, but it's down inside there. The condenser itself is back here behind the radiator. The actual AC compressor itself, all this can be done from the top. You should not have to get down underneath the car. And we're going to attempt on the actual condenser to remove this radiator. As far as these brackets here, it's two. Once all this is out of the way, and this will slide forward, we're hoping, push it forward, and we're going to reach down in here with our hands. And one of them is up here, the bolt for this high side. The low side is down on the bottom. We'll get that one taken off. And then we're going to have two 10 millimeter, I believe 8 or 10 millimeter nuts, bolts that are holding the condenser to the radiator. And then we'll also have two power steering cooler hoses, one on each side, that we're going to have to get. And all of this should be accessible from the top to get this out without losing our coolant, which is our main goal, because the coolant in this car is not cheap. It's about $25 a gallon. So with all that being said, we'll go ahead and get all this stuff removed. We'll get you set up on a tripod and we'll bring you along for it. All right, stay tuned. All right, that was a 8 millimeter. Remove this here, pop the pins here, get this out the way. We'll go ahead and remove the air filter. The air box itself is in the way. Two bolts here are nuts. I believe they're 10 millimeter. Pop those out the way. And then it's going to have a thing on the bottom that kind of pops into a hole that holds it tight. So you just kind of got to wiggle it and pop it. It should pop loose, just like that. All right, so there's your compressor right down here. So up here on the top, you're going to have a nut that's got to come off. Then there's going to be, I believe, two more that are bolts. One on the bottom, one on the back side top. And you're going to remove this nut first. This nut now, and it's a nut because there's a stud that goes through to the body. It's supposed to be for alignment. It's not good for alignment to take it out because the stud gets in the way. So the stud has got to be removed. And of course, you know, it's a full-size bolt that goes on it. And then what they put on it to give you a little context of size. The bolt is pretty good size, and this is the head on the stud, a 5 millimeter. There's no way that's going to go on there and turn that big old bolt out. So what we're going to probably do, we get the nut off there, we get the two bolts out, we're going to slide this compressor this away, and we're going to go in from this side of the compressor, a pair of vice grips, and we're going to pop that thing loose. And then we'll take and put our 5 millimeter on there and work that out with the ratchet. But I've seen people online trying to bust this thing loose out here with that 5 millimeter, and there's just no way. It's been in there, this car's got 100,000 miles on it. I just don't see any way you're gonna get lucky enough to pop that loose without busting the threads on that, without rounding it off. So we're gonna do that. Once we get the belt off here, we'll start getting those other two bolts out. move the line. I believe it's a 13 millimeter on the line, on the hoses or whatever, and they're 2 into 1, so it's real easy to one bolt out and that'll get out of your way. So, all right, we'll put this back up on the tripod and we'll get it moving. So, like 1/2 inch drive. I have a set for it, but there's not a lot of room. The what I have is real long, so we'll use this. It should be enough to break the tension, get the belt out of the way. All right, just like that, we'll get the belt out of the way. We'll just kind of let it hang there, and we'll move it around if we need to get it out of the way. All right, I went ahead and hooked up some gauges real quick. I did not check to see if we had any Freon in it. The customer did say that he didn't believe there was anything in it because the compressor went, and I guess wherever he took it to have it checked, they pulled Freon out of it and weren't sure, you know what, other than they said the compressor was no good, so they didn't recharge it back up. So, and we verified that here. As you can see, we have nothing in our line, so in our system at all. So, all right, we'll continue on and go ahead and get this thing removed. Like I said, I believe 13 millimeter should be what we need. I'm gonna use an extension. Get down there with it and see if that's what it is. That's what it should be. Yes, it is 13. And it's a bolt, not a stud. I thought it'd be a studded thing, but it's not. Bolt, 13 millimeter head. We'll use that. This manifold line up off of here and get it out the way. Like I said, it just a manifold line, as you can see. One bolt holding both of them in together. And we'll put new gaskets on it when we go back together with that. Unplug it. On the compressor itself has 2 little lines, just like all GMs have had for years. Pop one side up, the other side, and disconnect it. Do not break them. Just like that. You can see there, if you can see it, I believe in the video. Put that out the way. We're going to go ahead and remove down here also. We're going to remove this power steering line right here. And disconnect that, get that out the way because that bolt sits right up in here, and just make it a little bit easier to get to everything. 16 millimeter. We'll bust that thing loose and get it up out the way. You're gonna want to put a catch can because it's gonna leak out power steering fluid. All right, we got the power steering pump out the way, draining, hopefully into the pan. That's where it's supposed to go, but you don't always get so lucky, but maybe we did. Let that drain on out and get out the way, and then we'll get these bolts out of here. 13 millimeter, we're gonna get these off, these bolts out of here, hopefully. See what we got. Try with a small extension, see if we can get it to grab on there and get it off there. All right, once you break it loose with that small extension, if you don't want to wedge it up against the frame, mine's coming out just with my fingers. So once it pops loose, take it out with your finger the rest of the way. So you don't wedge that thing up against there and then try to get in there to reverse your ratchet. So, bolt, back bolt. This one you have clearance on the frame to get it all the way out, but same thing, it's gonna come out by hand, I'm sure. Yeah, just a nut. That's the top one. And that's the stud. I just don't think I want to try it with that 5. I'm going to verify that 5 fits it though. So let's verify. Yeah, it is a 5. But I can tell you, I just don't see any possible way that they're going to put a size 13 head on this bolt, and then they're going to expect you to extract that bolt with the 5mm socket head. There's no way. It wasn't meant to come out. So, because it's a guide, but to get that thing to clear, if not, it's going to hit the frame. So the stud has to come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom bolt out, then we're going to slide that compressor over on that stud, and then we're going to take a pair of vice grips, get inside, and we're going to bust it loose, and then we'll take our 5mm and work it the rest of the way out. Same thing on the bottom. We're going to try this with the extension, see if we can bust it loose, and then, because I can see it from here, and then work this off and take it out by hand, hopefully. And you're not going to need the extension on this one. It sticks out further. Might even have to use a stubby. Same thing, just loosen it enough to break it loose. Yeah, it's gonna come out by hand. Because it wedges right up against the frame, and if not, you gotta try to reverse switch that, and it's not fun. All right, bottom front bolt. And it's oily only because that power steering fluid ran right down on it, so. All right, so now like I said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take and we're gonna slide that compressor. We're going to take that and we're going to slide it forward or sideways, and then we'll get to it with vice grips. All right, let's see if I can get you down here to show you what we're looking at, because if you're watching this and you haven't watched any other video whatsoever, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. So hold on a second, let's get you moved down here and take a look at it. All right, we can come down here and see what this does. So, compressor, get this out the way of the light, if I can maneuver it. So, compressor right there, I believe. Look up here. I'm working kind of blind here, I can't really see much. So there's a bolt right there. You see that bolt? We're going to put a pair of vice grips on it. Let's call it a bolt, it's really a stud, goes in there. And we're going to bust it loose, and then we'll finish taking it out with that 5mm. Now you kind of have an idea what I'm talking about. All right, so here we are back up top. Let's put this light back on. See if we can get us a pair of vice grips on there and bust that loose. All right, here we go. Vice grips. We're gonna get down in there and see if we can get these on there, and we're just gonna pop it down and pop it loose, and at least I think that'd be the best way to try to go at this. So. Like that actually wasn't in real tight on that one, which I'm surprised, man. All the stuff I reviewed, this was the worst part of This was getting this thing out. All right, let's slide it back up and see if we can get that 5 on there and bust her on out. So we can get in there with this and get it popped out. It's still pretty tight because it's going into aluminum, so over time, you know, that stuff tends to fall up a little bit. It seems to be turning it, so we'll turn it as long as it turns. If not, we'll go back to inside there and do it that other way. I'm really surprised it's this difficult. It's getting easier now. So. All right. I believe that's out. Yep. We'll take and pull it out right here in front because it is the 6-cylinder model, so we got lots of room. And there's your stud. And as you can see, that's that little head I was telling you about. If you try to break it loose with that 5, you're just gonna strip that head. Then you're gonna work yourself ragged trying to get it out with a pair of vice grips in here on this inside of the stud. So, all right, let's get this up here. We'll get some stuff cleaned out, new gaskets on that manifold, and we'll get that back installed. All right, so we'll bring you over here and show you what these compressors look like. You always want to make sure you got the same compressor. So let's zoom this out a little bit. So new one, it's Murray compressor. Come with the new O-rings, no oil in it. I will put somewhere close to about 4 ounces of oil in here is what I will do. I didn't measure because I didn't take any of this out. I didn't evacuate it, so I'm not sure what came out with it. We're also going to be doing the condenser as well. So I think 4 to 6 ounces in here should suffice this plenty. It's what I normally use when I do these jobs, not knowing exactly what's come out of it. So the compressor itself has nothing in it, so I know we want at least 4 ounces in there to satisfy what it's going to need. So, but they look the same. Everything looks good. This has a pigtail. This one doesn't, but the pigtail end looks to be the same as the end itself on the compressor. So, but other than that, I would say they look like they should work. You know, like I said, built a little differently, but as far as what they've got going on here, these all should work. I mean, it's kind of different on how these are set there, but I believe you can see they're rounded there too, so it should be the same, just probably a new design with a different kind of style compressor. So, all right, let's get this thing on and we'll go from there. All right, so you're not gonna be able to read this tag, but I just wanted to note, I said I was gonna add 4 ounces to it because it came empty. Most of these used to come empty, but it says here the compressor is pre-charged with 3 ounces of oil. So must add what you recommend, what's recommended for it. So I'm gonna add about 1 ounce to this, and actually when it did open it, it spit out there pretty good as far as, because it was under vacuum. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put 1 ounce. I just wanted to note that for y'all that it was not empty on this one. So one I did the other day was completely empty, which is, you see there's the box, did an AC job a couple days ago and it had none in it. So I guess just whatever plant it's at, whatever they decide they want to do. So, all right, I just wanted to note that. Let's get it back over here on the tripod and get it going. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing slid back in here. You're gonna want to make sure have your stud handy and slide this on back in here so that we put it in together, because once it's not in there, it's not going to go. So we got this bolt in here now. I'm gonna slide it up in there and see if we can take our ratchet here, get that one started. It's supposed to be the guide, but of course, you know, you gotta take it out. So we're gonna see if we can get it in there and then got it on it. like we might have it. So, like I said, it's hard to turn that little bolt, that end on that with your hand. So if you're not comfortable using a ratchet on it because you're afraid you might cross thread it, then don't do it that way. Maybe start the other bolts first. I can feel it with it because it's a small enough ratchet. It's gonna grab the threads like it should or not. And it did, it grabbed them fine. I'm just gonna get in there where it snugs, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. The other nut will go on, like right there, it's snug as far as I'm going. And the rest of the nut will go on and it'll tighten it down. Both these bolts are the same size, so it doesn't matter which one goes where. You got one in the front, one in the rear. And these should screw in pretty easy by hand. They came out by hand very easy. So if you're having to force it, you're cross-threading it, because like I said, they came out real easy. So just, you got to find the hole, you know. So wiggle it around, jiggle it around, come into play. All right, those are in good. Make sure where everything lines up to plug back in, that we're not in on anything. There's our plug, and it only goes one way, so be sure to look at it, don't force it. And those will lock back down. There we go. All right, now we'll pull this off. We have oil in it. I only put it back on hand tight just to keep the oil from running out. I was trying to get it all this put in place. All right, new gaskets. You want to make sure you put those on. Set those up here. We'll pull the old ones off. And they're right here. Old one there. The old one here. Wipe that surface off. Shouldn't be dirty, but yeah, might as well wipe it off while you're here. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get these new gaskets put on here. We'll get this butted back up here, and then we'll move on to the condenser side. The bolt that came out of the original compressor. Put it back down and it'll pop right back into place. Actually, you know what? I think we'll go ahead and tighten these other bolts up real quick first, just to. I like to leave it loose so I have some play, but back bolt, if I remember right, is back there pretty far back. So let's go ahead and get those tight and snugged up first. That way this is not going to get in the way. And then I like to come back and just make sure they're snugged up like they should be. The regular ratchet. Good and tight. All right, now we'll go ahead and put that line back on there, and hopefully it'll slide back on without, I can't move the compressor at all, but it should be fine. Gaskets look good. Surface is nice and clean. We'll use a 13 millimeter with a little swivel on it, and we'll just let her work her way on down. I'm sure she slides back in where she has to go. All right, she's lined up. Tighten it on down. Yeah, snug it up. That should be it on that. All right, now we got that on, the oil that's in it. I like to go ahead and give it about 10 cranks on the compressor itself so that it'll make sure it gets the oil circulating through it before it does its startup. And she is tight. She's real tight. Go. I can hear it moving the oil. All right, should be good. All right, we'll go ahead and get the belt put back on, and then we'll move to the condenser side. All right, once you get that on there, you want to just make sure, feel your hand around it, take a little peek, make sure it's still around all the pulleys as it should be. They're in their pulley like they should. Yep, all the way down and around. Yep, feels good. Looks real good. And that should be it for the compressor side until we go to charge it all up. All right, so like I said, I'm going to try to get this condenser out of here without removing the radiator. A couple people showing it can be done. I really don't want to take it out. I don't want to lose coolant. So let's we'll get this moved back and see what we can do as far as getting this out. It looks like we've got 2 bolts here holding this radiator in. That pulled. See how far forward this moves. Like I said, being a 6-cylinder, got quite a bit of room in here to work. So might even be able to loosen it somewhere down below by lifting it up a little bit and just sliding it back. But let's see how much room we got. I'm a pretty big guy. My arm's pretty big, so I don't know. We'll have to see if we can get down into these areas because there's one down here on the bottom, one down here on the bottom. The up top one's not going to be a problem, but one on the bottom, they're gonna be. You have to go in to get these, unless you can get them from the bottom, which I might be able to do. I mean, I have a lift here, so we can lift it up and look at it from there. So we'll look at it from both ways if it's too tight. So, all right, let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and start on this 10 millimeter up there. Assess and see what we're looking at. All right, let's see what we got here, what we're working with. Pick up and move. Might have enough room. I can see that one there. That one's no problem. Oh yeah, it is a little problem because it's got to get from the bottom side, underside. I don't know if you can see here. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, right up here we've got one. This one here, it connects out from the top, a nut. And then the one on the bottom, which is going to be the low side, return, the nut itself is on the bottom side. So, and there's a shroud. We might be able to move that shroud aside and get that one off, because once it breaks loose, it'll come off by hand. They're real easy. But below that is going to be a power steering cooler. And they have hose clamps on them. This one over here doesn't look like it's too bad to get to. I don't think you can get them from the bottom anyway, to be honest with you. So, all right, let's move forward and see what we can do. Get as far as we can, then if we got to lift it up, we'll lift it up and get at it from the bottom. All right, same thing, 13 millimeter. Just a nut. It should be. It's a studded. Yeah, just the nut came off on that one. That one should work its way up and off. Yeah, just like that. Oil in it. All right, we get the box put back on now, and we got everything else replaced. The box back in, put 2 bolts on, it'll clip in place, remember, on that little bushing on the bottom. And so we've got that in, those are tight. Put the other piece back on. Air filter. This has a couple of grooves that it slides into, so make sure you get those in there too at the same time, all 3. Put that back on. Plug in here. All right, and then 8 millimeter, tighten that one up. Make sure it's seated up good, not pinched anywhere, it's good and tight. All right, air filter in, and don't forget to plug in your nice airflow and pull it through. Plug it back in, slide the safety back. All right, let's go ahead and get the gauges hooked back up to it. Get it on a vacuum. Vacuum it down for about 5 minutes, and we'll check to see if it shows any leaks on the vacuum side. If not, we'll let it vacuum down for about 35-40 minutes. Make sure we get any moisture out of it. And then we will charge it back up with Freon. All right, gauges are hooked up. Get a vacuum on it. And here's our vacuum pump. Plug that in. Now, if you got an AC machine, which I have, if you had evacuated it with it and all that, you want to put the Freon back in it, that's fine, you can do that. This didn't have any in it, so I didn't break the machine out for that. Move the 2 lines up and let it vacuum down for a few minutes, and we'll check and see if it's holding at it where I think it should be at. Now my gauge here, it should go to 30 and hold, but I don't know if I've dropped the gauge before, I'm not sure, but I do a lot of, well, not a lot, but I do a few of these AC jobs, and my gauges here, manifold gauges, about 20 to 21 is as far down as I can get it to go. So I look at it as if it goes to there and it holds there, doesn't bleed off, then I've got good vacuum. So we've got it there now, we're gonna close it, and we're gonna let it sit there for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and look at it and see if it held at 20 to 21. And if it holds there, then we should be good to go to continue on vacuuming down to get any moisture out of it, and then we'll charge it up. All right, stand by. All right, well, here we go. As you can see there, it's still holding it right between the 20-21 mark on the blue side, and looks good. I don't see any leaks on the vacuum side, so we'll go ahead and proceed and let it vacuum down for about another 30 minutes, and then we'll get it charged up. All right, we'll bring you back for that. All right, well, let's go ahead and get this off. Been vacuuming down for quite a while now. Let's turn it off. All right, so according to O'Reilly's website, you can go there. Well, I go there and I look up the car through their license plate program that they offer, and they have informed me, according to the car, the size of everything, it takes 19 ounces of Freon. So we have 12 ounces per can. We're going to do about a can and a half of this, and see where we get it to. Should be good. So let's go ahead and get this started. So we'll go ahead and get it started like this, and get some Freon in it. It'll take about half to 3/4 of this can, and then we'll turn it off. We'll start the car, get it cycling, get it going, and then we'll finish it off with what it needs after that. All right, let's start the car up and get the AC going. It should be on. Yeah, now we're on and the gauges are moving. You can see down here, electric coolant fans aren't on yet. This is where we're at on our low side with it running. So we'll go ahead and let it finish the 12 ounces. You can see it's pulling it in. And as the can gets empty, it'll get cold. This will drop back down. Once it levels out, the can will be empty. All right, it should be empty and nothing else. And like I said, we'll come in here now. We'll put about half of this. That should be all she needs. It's real close already as far as gauge readings go, but she's dropping back down now. But about half. We'll watch our high side. Whenever we want that to get above about 250, that fan should come on. Go ahead and turn it off now because it's climbing. We've got maybe 1/4 of the can in it. Both sides looks real good. I'd like to hear that fan kick on, but I think it's on low. Yeah, they're both on low right now, so, which is good. Go ahead and let that take a little bit more in. Want this to maintain 250 or so. Right at about 30, 35. Let me see how we're feeling inside. So as you can see inside the car, we're running about 43 degrees right now. That's where it's running. Inside my shop here, it's climate controlled. So we're looking at right now as we're in here, it's about 78 degrees. So it's holding pretty good in there at that. My gauges look real good. So they should be. And like I said, when it gets outside, the fan will kick on the high side fan because it's going to be a little warmer outside. So this is up a little bit higher than I'd like to see it, but I don't think it's enough that it's going to bother it. So, because like I said, the fans are It is barely turning. And I know we only have about half this can left in here. All right, well, that's just about going to do it. There goes our fans. Come on. We're going to watch this. It's going to drop down. We'll go inside and see what it's blowing at. So, in the middle of the middle vent in there, right above the radio, we're blowing right at 32 degrees. So nice and cold. Our gauges look really good. You can see they look real good. Compressor sounds real good. We've got some really good moisture buildup on the low side line, which is what we want. And everything seems to be going as it should. So, all right, we'll get disconnected. We'll get the top put back on it. Give it a little test drive, and we'll go from there. So, got this all finished up. Looks like I lost some footage on the replacement of the condenser. I believe I explained it pretty well once I got the radiator pulled forward as to what it's going to take to get that out of there if you choose to do it that way. It came right out. It's a little difficult with the big arms to get down in there, but even a guy my size, I'm about 6'4", and I was able to get my arms down into those areas to get those all those clamps released. The clamps on the very bottoms for the actual power steering pump or power steering cooler are going to be just a pair of pliers. You just take a pair of pliers, squeeze them, pull them off, and because what they are, being power steering with oil going through them and it's on a plastic kind of cooler, they just pull right off real easy. I actually used a screwdriver, straight edge, and I just kind of popped it right off on both sides. And the one on the bottom, I used a gear wrench and got up underneath it because, like I said, the nut itself is on the bottom side of that. So I took and just put a gear wrench on it, broke it loose, and it came right off with the fingers. So really the hardest part was just getting yourself in those positions to get those clamps off of those rubber lines, those rubber hose lines. So anyways, got it all done. It's still blowing cold. It's been sitting here for about an hour. I got in it right before I turned the video back on, started it, put it on. I checked it again with my meter, running out at 32 and 33 degrees. Fans are coming on. They're cycling from low to high like they should. And it's blowing good and running good. So, all right, with that being said, we'll wrap this one up. And once again, 2011, maybe 2012 Chevy Camaro with the 6-cylinder AC job. So, all right, well, hey, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you here next time in the man cave.